Sweden doesn't have a national anthem. The constitution doesn't mention there being a national anthem, and there is no law on the books which specifies any particular song as a national anthem. But if you've ever watched a football game where Sweden played, you might have heard that song is called Du gamla, du fria. In English, You Ancient, You Free. It's a song we sing at football games. It's the song all those national anthem YouTube channels play over a static image of a castle or something. And it's often sung during graduation ceremonies. If you go to Sweden and you ask any random person what Sweden's national anthem is, they'll say Du gamla, du fria. But you shouldn't do that. Swedes are very particular about their personal space. So how did we end up like this? Where did the song come from? This is Richard Dybeck. He was born in this church in an incredibly small village near the town of Köping 208 years ago, on September 1st, 1811. Now, Richard led a pretty busy life. He studied at what's known as a trivial school, where he learned grammar, including Latin and Greek, rhetoric, and dialectics. Not Marxist or Hegelian dialectics, actually just the ancient Greek dialectical method. He then went to university, he got a degree in law, he worked at a court of appeal for a few years, and then became the mayor. Now, in 19th century Europe, you couldn't just run for mayor, that'd be communism. You actually had to be chosen by the local burghers, literally the bourgeoisie. They'd pick 3 candidates, and then His Royal Majesty the King himself would pick one of them.
I do declare.
Or sometimes the government would do it in his name. But Richard eventually got bored of being mayor, so he quit, and he started to pursue his real passion, folklore research. Now, I realize folklore researcher is the most Dungeons and Dragons sounding job description ever, but what it really entailed was the study of traditional spoken poetry, folk belief and religion, and traditional customs, including traditional celebrations. So basically, he played folk music at parties for a living. He was basically the original hipster. In 1844, Richard visited a native Sami province called Idre, very close to the border of Norway. Today, it's a ski resort where a 3-star hotel costs $130 a night, but back then it was just a very quiet settlement with very beautiful scenery. Supposedly, Richard saw the mountain Städjan, which he found so beautiful that he wanted to write a poem about it. The fact that Richard studied traditional poetry and folk music can definitely be seen in the lyrics. Of course, as a Swedish person, I'm going to say that the lyrics are more poetic in their original Swedish, but the translation goes, You ancient, you free, you mountainous north, you quiet, you joyful beauty. I greet you, loveliest land upon earth, your sun, your sky, your green meadows. You are enthroned on memories of great olden days when honored your name flew across the earth. I know that you are and remain what you were. Yes, I want to live, I want to die in the north. Richard set these lyrics to the tune of a folk song that he heard in his hometown called The Loved One's Death. And it's an incredibly morbid ballad about a man who's riding a horse in the woods, and he comes across 2 people who work with funeral preparations, and he asks them who they're burying, and they say it's a young woman, and he's like, alright, whatever. And then he goes back home, but he can't find his girlfriend, and then he sees her parents standing over her grave, and then some other women are there, and they have rings, and they tell him that he can have whichever other girl that he wants, but he says there isn't another girl like his girl in 7 kingdoms. So yeah, Richard heard that song and he was like, damn, that's gonna make a great tune for my song, what a bop. The song was performed for the first time on the 13th of November 1844 in a hotel in Stockholm called Hotel Continental. Richard wasn't actually too happy about this performance. He said, the lyrics are most mediocre, they have a temporary character and they should not be spread around. But then some months later some German guys wrote a book about folk songs and they included Richard's lyrics, and so he said screw it, he published the lyrics himself and he played the song at the end of all of his performances for the next 15 years. Now the original lyrics actually said you ancient you fresh instead of you ancient you free, which Richard understandably regretted, and in 1858, 14 years after performing the song regularly, he changed the lyrics to what they are now. But the new lyrics had a hard time catching on. The original version had already grown to be quite popular. Then, 19 years later, Richard died at the age of 65, with everyone still singing You Ancient, You Fresh. 23 years later, in the year 1900, a famous Swedish opera singer named Carl Fredrik Lundqvist, who had been singing the song in Köping, very close to where Richard grew up, was told by a local pastor who had known Richard personally that the lyrics were actually "You Ancient, You Free." So Carl started singing the correct lyrics, and thanks to that, the song became even more popular. So okay, it's a popular song, but how did it become regarded as the unofficial official national anthem? Well, something which might have contributed to that is when in 1893, during a graduation dinner, King Oscar II actually stood up from his chair when the song started playing. Now, we don't really know why he stood up. Maybe he just wanted to stretch his legs, who knows? I mean, those graduation dinners tend to be pretty boring, but the news that he stood up when the song played spread pretty fast, and that gave the song some legitimacy, and people started thinking of it as official. There was a bit of criticism aimed toward having the song as the national anthem. Many people thought the melody of the song was too dull and sleepy, and the fact that it's so vague about what country it was even supposed to represent. I mean, it doesn't even mention Sweden in it at all. That was a problem. There were attempts to find other songs which were more appropriate, but they didn't catch on. And then in 1938, Swedish radio started playing the song at the end of all of their broadcasts, and that was pretty much the nail in the coffin. No other song could ever be considered the national anthem. The fact that the song doesn't mention Sweden has led to the curious situation where the Polish national anthem actually does mention Sweden and is the only national anthem in the world that mentions Sweden. Specifically, it mentions how the Polish people will prevail after the Swedish annexation of 1655, which ironically is also talked about in the Swedish national anthem. The second verse, "You are enthroned on memories of great olden days when honored your name flew across the earth," that refers to the era of the Swedish Empire, when Sweden basically conquered everything around it. So the Polish national anthem basically says, man, it really sucked that time Sweden invaded us. And then the Swedish national anthem says, man, wasn't it great when we were going around Europe and invading people? So yeah, the next time that you write a song and you think, man, these lyrics, I hate this song, it's never gonna catch on, it might just become your country's national anthem 60 years after you die. Well, sort of. Again, it's not official. But why isn't it? Some members of parliament have attempted to pass a constitutional amendment which would make the anthem official. But the Constitutional Committee has advised against it, saying that the song was elevated to the position of a national anthem organically by the people themselves, which is how a national anthem should be selected, according to them. And the people are in no need of the government just telling them what their national anthem is. If the national anthem is laid out in the constitution, that makes it very difficult for the national anthem to ever change again. Just like Du gamla du fria became the de facto national anthem organically, so too should any other song be able to do. So if the Swedish people one day just collectively decide that Toxic by Britney Spears is the new national anthem, then it will be just as official as the current national anthem. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I will say one thing. If it had become the official national anthem of Sweden, I probably wouldn't have made this video. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter for daily ramblings about whatever, I'm at AsherScapegoat. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/AsherScapegoat, where I'll livestream if and when I feel like it. I want to say thank you to my patrons who this month genuinely helped me pay for public transport costs and doctor's visits. The more money that I make on Patreon, the more time I can spend doing these videos, so thank you. Specifically, thank you to Joshua Cheeseman, DJ Funk, OCC Bokiti, Jonah R. Brandley, M. Lim, Will M., Alfie Bridge Smith, Roland Bayland, Comrade Asian, Emil Sigerbäck, Kvagram, John H. N., and Jedi Davian. If you'd like to support me, even with just $1 a month, please visit patreon.com/AsherScapegoat. And thank you for watching.